Hello, folks. Welcome back to Management 5804, Leadership in Technology-Based Organizations. I'm Dr. David Townsend, and this is Lecture 13.2. And in this, we're going to spend a few minutes talking about virtuous cycles and ecosystem design. So as I've mentioned in some of the notes in the modules and have been hinting at in some of our case discussions, ecosystems are emerging as a very robust way to extend the logic of a platform strategy into a comprehensive way to engage a variety of different product service lines with customer segments. In doing so, leveraging many of the underlying digital platforms that are now emerging. And so this is a kind of a critical advancement in the way that we think about technology strategy in organizations because it upends a critical logic, as we'll talk about here in a bit, of scope over focus. And traditionally in strategy, one of the primary arguments that people would make is that you need to focus on a particular product line or a particular group of customers and try to own that. And we've discussed some of that logic when you're trying to cross the chasm. But for companies that have truly built out whole product solutions, and have built very robust platforms with integrated networks of alliance partners to offer compelling products to their mainstream customers, an ecosystem is kind of a next stage in an evolution to link all these different elements together. So we want to start the discussion of how to actually build on some of the previous business model archetypes in order to engage in ecosystem design. And so again, we've seen the business model canvas and we've looked at these 9 different elements as a way to organize a company. We've talked about how they could be arranged in different ways among the 4 major archetypes. So open innovation, freemium business models, long tail, and multi-sided platforms are different ways to configure this business model canvas, if you will, in order to organize a company. But many times to survive digital disruption, it requires firms to engage in a pretty comprehensive, broad set of strategies. And as we've talked about, there's some reasons to be skeptical of this rhetoric around disruption being inevitable, given some of the challenges that disruptive innovations have in crossing the chasm. But to that end, one of the critical points that we've discussed is that the emergence of a value network is a critical ingredient which shapes the extent to which companies are able to survive. And so as a result, you're seeing these strategies implemented in quite a few places. And so we know that about 32% or about a third of all company revenues that are out there right now are under threat of digital disruption. And so companies are facing, especially brick and mortar companies, are facing an enormous set of obstacles and challenges with companies that are now figuring out these new digital ecosystems. But at the same time, there's massive opportunities. And so more than 50% of new revenue opportunities for many companies are coming from the emergence of new digital business models. And this really stems from the fact that you can really know your customers better. You can have keen insights into how they think, how they shop, what kind of decisions they make. And so the effective emergence of an ecosystem can yield 32% higher revenue and sometimes 27% higher profit margins across firms that are successfully able to build a robust ecosystem. So within that, right, there's different pathways to get there. And we've talked about some of the different configuration opportunities that firms face. But in the end, the ecosystem driver is a kind of a comprehensive way to build an entire portfolio of businesses to surround groups of customers, right? So you can pretty much, set up an entire end-to-end shopping or a customer experience that leverages multiple different, resources and different partnerships in order to serve a variety of different needs that customers may have. And so an ecosystem, again, a branded platform provides a comprehensive kind of the true extent of a whole product solution for a group of customers. And from that, it provides enormous amounts of data about what these customers want or need and allows firms to build a strong, sustainable competitive advantage. And so within that, this becomes kind of the end goal of many businesses is to move from single product lines, again, sometimes connecting that through a platform business, a multi-sided platform, into a full ecosystem. So this kind of evolution from single product lines to ecosystem, again, is a critical transition point for many companies. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning here, this is upending this focus are this infatuation, if you will, on focused strategies. And so this used to be the name of the game in most of the logic around strategic management and sustaining competitive advantage. And for a lot of businesses, it held true. And so we talked about, in many cases, the difficulties of running a large conglomerate where you have very complex sets of operations and an unmanageable size. And you would even pay a pretty significant penalty in financial markets with too much of a conglomerate focus. And so you can look at the stock price of GE right now as a great example of this, of a company that's had way too much internal and external complexity. And so the company itself is starting to fall apart. So the conventional wisdom was always that focus was rewarded. And you could see that the average market capitalization of firms that were organized to be too much an unrelated diversified strategy would be far under what the actual book value of their assets would be. In this case, you see Tyco is a company that used to be a large conglomerate that was broken up, and how much they lag the S&P 500 in terms of its stock price. And again, it was just difficult for investors to be able to disentangle what was happening. But something's changed, right? And so the emergence of digital strategy has enabled companies to reshift their strategic logics and priorities away from a sole focus on a very narrow line of products to building out very robust platforms, ecosystems that can be leveraged to create, again, comprehensive whole product solutions and buying experiences for an in-group of customers. And underneath that, oftentimes is the importance of these software platforms that can monitor, facilitate, and optimize operations. And this is where the Chinese companies are really starting to make headway in building out very robust digital platforms that enable them to span various customer segments, right? It can boost efficiencies. The emergence of cloud analytics is a way for companies to aggregate an enormous amount of data in order to generate unique customer insights and offer new innovations. It also allows companies to spread out platform costs, right? So you can reduce the overall cost of running your business. And so, there's a huge emphasis within these ecosystems of building systems that can handle complex real-time optimization. And so that's expensive, but if you can build it across an entire ecosystem platform, then you're able to gain significant amounts of traction with with growing your business out. And so that oftentimes is leveraging, again, these network effects. And so we talked about these with multi-sided platforms to a degree, but now that within an ecosystem, you're just moving beyond just the simple engagement of a buyer and a seller potentially to focusing on massive production synergies across an enormous line of products. And so that's bringing manufacturing, customer engagement, and a variety of different aspects of businesses back under the same digital roof. And so an ecosystem, again, creates kind of this loop between the users, data, smarter algorithms, better products that enables companies to create these advantages that they can then maintain and grow over the long run. And so companies that are able to leverage this cycle within ecosystems are finding themselves enjoying significant competitive advantages. And we've seen this graph before, and we've talked about Apple, and Apple's overall market share in the smartphone and tablet market, and how this sort of power law distribution reflects some of the underlying dynamics within complex systems. But what we all know to be the case is that Apple has accomplished this not just because of the superiority of those products, but because of the whole ecosystem that they've built, right? And so we can see sort of some of the different pieces that are connected within this broad ecosystem. And so people buy iPhones and buy Mac computers and buy the Apple Watch and other products and software products and engage in a variety of different these platforms, not just because of the product superiority, but because of integration across all of these different spaces, which reduces Apple's overall marketing cost and also enables them to create a bit of a captive system to keep people engaged. And so within that, right, ecosystem advantages are significant. And the emergence of Ryanair from the Winning Business Model article shows that as it transformed from a simple low-cost producer to this massive ecosystem that emerged, and this sort of increasing complexity of those operations, they were, as we talked about just a bit ago, this leveraging the production synergies and effective management of complexity is what yields these virtuous cycles, right? And so by aligning company goals and the strategic objectives of that organization, and creating sort of self-reinforcing activities that double down and build on those advantages that are robust to change and disruption, you can achieve what you talk about as positive returns to scale. And so every investment you make starts to yield more and more returns for the company, and that's at really the heart of effective ecosystem design. And so Apple's success with the iPhone connects in with its computers, connects in with the watches, connects in with software and other products, ancillary products that they can sell, and collectively those things drive more and more engagement by consumers. Now, Apple's facing some significant challenges now as the iPhone itself is starting to fade a bit, and so they're going to need to create additional flagship products that can continue to drive that forward. But overall, the system is still relatively robust, even given that the iPhone sales are starting to level off or decline a bit. You're still seeing some tremendous amount of success by the company. And so overall, right, this sort of trend towards machine learning and artificial intelligence is one of the crucial pieces here. And this is one of the things, again, as we continue to drive forward into this new digital era, this is going to be a crucial set of factors that we'll see. And so these digital infrastructures that are being built that enable ecosystems to emerge. I mean, what you're seeing with Amazon, you're seeing with other companies in this particular space is a great example of how these companies are changing. And then in the readings, again, not required, but that Smart Business book that's part of the course pack as an optional reading, that's exactly where you see Alibaba able to build these really robust digital infrastructure, which enables the company to compete in so many different spaces effectively. And so again, at the heart of that is this smart adaptive software system, cloud analytics, and other platforms that enable companies to focus or to spread out their success over a variety of different markets instead of having to focus on particular product lines or different market segments.